His name was Gordon. He was an 11-year-old boy who moved into the state of Arizona and made new friends at Apache Elementary School. He became a big fan of Blue's Clues around the age of 5, because there was something about the program that interested him. Of course, a lot of children like television programs about talking dogs. However, he discovered a mysterious episode that was so disturbing, he gave up on watching Blue's Clues. One day, Gordon was riding his bike down to the Goodwill store to see if they had any interesting Blue's Clues tapes. He parked his bike near a window of the store. He went inside the thrift shop and asked where the VHS tapes were. He walked into the section where the videos were accordingly. There were a whole variety of movies, produced by Disney, Fox, Universal, and Warner Brothers. Oh, this was a lot for young Gordon's mind. He was so excited. As he was browsing through their collection, he stumbled across a VHS with a blank cover, however. Even the tape itself was covered in dust. He blew the dust off, and the tape's title was revealed to be Blue's Clues, Touching the Sun. How strange. Were Steve and Blue going into space to see how hot the sun was? That sounded more like a plot for the Magic School Bus. The thing was, the VHS had a price tag on it. It said $5.90. He purchased the tape and went back home. He wanted to see what happened in the episode. He was so young and curious. Suddenly he remembered that his mother wanted him to do a few chores, like feed the cats, wash the dishes, take a shower, clean his room. After that, he finally got a chance to watch the program. Before putting the tape in, he noticed that his VCR-DVD player combo was dusty. So he cleaned it with one of his mother's cleaning products. Finally, he put the tape in. The intro began to play, but he realized something was not quite right. The guitar tunes were replaced by an eerie organ tune, and the scenery looked so much different. The sky was gray, as if there was a tornado coming. The trees appeared barren and lifeless. The color of Steve's house was red instead of yellow, and the front door was colored orange instead of purple. Furthermore, the roof was tinted black instead of red. This was hardly the color designed for a children's program. Joe looked rather depressed. He said, "Oh, hi there. I don't feel happy, but you can still come in." Gordon wondered why Joe looked so depressed. When Blue jumped out of a nearby bush, the camera started zooming in on Joe's front door. Gordon was confused by how the intro began. Steve Goes to College was the final episode to include the old introduction. Maybe it was just Gordon's imagination or something, but he decided to continue watching the episode. Joe opened the door. He said, "Oh, I didn't see you there. Welcome to the Blue's Clues house. Come on in." Joe started to walk away from the camera. The camera moved on its own into the kitchen where Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper were. "Sorry about that," said Mr. Salt. "The reason why Joe can't see you now is because he's expecting a phone call from Miranda." Oh, Gordon knew who Miranda was. She appeared in an episode titled Shy. Gordon's television screen switched to static for approximately a dozen seconds before returning to normal. Joe was finishing his conversation with Miranda. He told Miranda goodbye and he hung up. After explaining how a telephone worked, Joe looked at the camera for about 10 seconds. He then began speaking, saying, "Today I'm going to skidoo into space to touch the sun." "Oh," Gordon said to himself. So it was Joe himself going to the sun. The screen faded to black for another dozen seconds or so. But what happened next would leave a lasting impression on young Gordon's mind. Joe was still staring at the screen, and he was crying for help. Joe looked around in confusion before stating, "Someone's in trouble," similar to how Sporticus says it in Lazy Town. He ran into the bathroom and saw that Tickety was drowning in his tub. This scene reminded Gordon of an episode of Supernatural where a woman was being pulled underwater by a ghost. Joe grabbed one of his handy contraptions and rescued Tickety out from the bathtub. "Are you okay?" asked Joe. "I think so," replied Tickety. He told Tickety to dry off and gave her a cup of grape juice. Afterward, Joe went over to Blue and asked, "Hey, Blue, what do you think we should do while we touch the sun?" Blue would always place a clue on the screen. Instead, she just shook her head, saying no. Joe was surprised. Blue ran off as the mail time theme started playing. But instead of the usual mail time song, Joe sung the song like this. Oh, touch the sun, why don't we just touch the sun? We're going to the fucking sun. Well, that was strange, Gordon said to himself, being a little bit too young to understand the cussing. Joe sat down on his thinking chair as a mailbox arrived to remind him about the letters. Joe flipped through the letters as if he was holding a deck of cards. "Interesting," he said. "I hope we learned something new today." Okay, Gordon thought to himself. Joe's expression creeped Gordon out because he simply stared at the screen for 3 whole minutes. Joe finally opened the letter. Inside the letter were 3 kids. One was a girl who was 10 years old. The second and third child were 2 boys, aged around 5 or 6 years. They waved hello and told him that they were visiting an observatory to learn about the sun. For a second, Gordon thought he heard a faint scream in the background. The next scene showed Joe walking into the Felt Friends frame. He helped the Felt Friends in solving a riddle and figuring out what was hiding in their bathtub. And what happened next shocked young Gordon half to death. The scene cut to Blue in Steve's bedroom, hanging from a noose. What made it more horrifying was that her eyes were missing. In fear, Gordon ejected the tape and smashed it with his father's sledgehammer. Then he got Gordon's father's matches and lit the tape on fire. Gordon thought he'd take a bath to calm himself over the nonsense. But when he got into the bathtub, he fell asleep. He was about to get to the perfect part of his dream when all of a sudden he heard Joe's voice and woke up to notice that he had too much water, and the color of the water was an orange color like Gatorade. Gordon had nightmares for the entire week. He didn't realize that as he was sleepwalking, he poured a bathtub's volume full of orange Gatorade into the bathtub. As to why he did this, he did it to simulate the power of the sun and to touch the sun. But all he was touching was orange Gatorade. This was especially troubling for me because I'm Gordon's father, and I bought the orange Gatorade to begin with. It was a waste of a lot of money.